and go live to Facebook. Okay, so we're streaming now. All right, thank you. Welcome today to my presentation, Seth Melendez from Where Geek Solutions. And I just thought today we would talk about World Password Day. And I just want to make this short. We believe that passwords are just the first step in your security and all of your cybersecurity within your um, business. And so let me open this up to everyone. There you go. Welcome everyone. And so what we're doing is, since it's World Password Day, I figured I'd do a short um, discussion on why your password is important and why a lot of people that use the same passwords, which is a no-no. There are people that are out there using short passwords like, password 123, very easily um, cracked, and also it's easy to decipher and find out from people. If you understand the psychology of people, sometimes you can figure it out. You see it in movies. People figure out your birthdays, your kids' birthdays, whatever it is. So you want to have your passwords be random. You can use a standard password generator, or you can get into what they have passphrases, and I'll get into that a little more in a minute. I'll describe and discuss some of that, so you can understand why we're moving towards this. The industry as a whole um, are getting hacked, and it's a weakness, and most of it is a human weakness. It's you know it's reported right now. It's rising 400%. Cyber attacks is rising 400%, 400%, and it's 75 people, uh, IT users, and 50%. Oh, I'm reading off of a document now. 75% of personal IT users and 50% of IT professionals lost data last year, and exposes the personal information of themselves, their business, and their clients to cyber criminals. And when your data is exposed, all you do is you allow people to gain more access to passwords and usernames. And what they do is they go out and they check against all the standard Netflix bank accounts. They go check usernames, passwords, because statistically, I think it was about 60% of the people who use a password at work will use the same password at home. And so when you are compromised, the first thing they do if they find a work password, let's say you had some type of software that you use, uh, any one of the ones out there so for social media, Netflix, any of the ones that out there that you use, whether it's work, business, they will start checking. Once that is exposed and breached, that information will now, there are people out there that will go check every bank account with different iterations of your name, different types of way, and they'll look at tendencies. Because if there are multiple breaches on the internet, and I've seen it for myself, you have a tendency to use a certain style or a certain type of username. Maybe you use a nickname, or you use, your first name dot last name, or first initial dot, last name, or even a derivative of those type of things. And now if they have a password, whether it's at work or home, they will now utilize that and try to get into multiple things. And they actually have applications that will do that in seconds for them. Once they put in a username and profile of someone, it will literally go through and check every major uh, site out there, whether it's Chase, Bank of America. It will check all of the different banks and financial agency, financial sites, and then it's also start going through other ones to try to get data from you, Credit Karma, things like that. It'll try to log in. So one of the biggest things that we talk about is that so people, and one of the recommendations I always give people, and I just had a seminar not too long ago, and I was explaining to them that your password is your first line of defense. And I know there are a lot of people out there that they would rather go passwordless. They'd rather they believe passwords are useless. I've got into discussion with guys, but I equate a password to your locks at home. A lock at home can be kicked in. Most locks are useless, but we have them, right? Because it's one line of defense. It's not the end all, the be all. And if you look at it that way, you'll never be surprised, or someone will get the jump on you if you're using it as a comprehensive tool, a comprehensive plan in everything you're doing. Okay, so people, I can't remember passwords. I have a problem doing these type of things with passwords. What do I do with them? Okay, so the biggest solution to that is a password manager. And I've gotten into discussions with people in my industry, and a lot of them don't like password managers. I recommend them, and I'll tell you why. A password manager to me is a lockbox. Now, can the lockbox be broken? Yes. A lot of us have safes in the house. You have little cabinets that are locked, or you have a small, tiny little lockbox where you have in your closet. Can somebody pick that up and leave? Sure, they can. But they can. It's still something we use for safety. So one of the and there are a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to go into them, why password managers have gotten safer. There were some issues, but some of the issues early on were localized in the sense that something had to do with the way it stored data locally, and that was rectified a few years ago. There may be other issues, but the biggest thing is it keeps you safe if you have it and you're using it on all your devices, and so that you don't have to write passwords down. You don't have to come up with cheap passwords. Passwords can be generated for you, whether the standard generated alphanumeric, or you're going to go with passphrase. So that's the way I always recommend passphrases. There are generators out there that will give you passphrases, which are just random words. And I can give you a demonstration of that real quick. Give me 1 second and I will pull it up for you. It is, okay, here we go. Okay, so there are password generators out here that I happen to use. This one, which Dice Phrase, it's a Chrome plugin extension that you can put in, and it will create a passphrase for you. And they're very random. I use random characters and random numbers at the end. There are password managers that have them, not all of them. 1Pass, and I think there's another one out there, Dashlane, that may have it. I know 1Pass has it. 1Pass has the passphrase, and I think Dashlane just introduced it. So when you generate it, this is what it comes out to. Now you can utilize that, copy it, put it where you need it, and you don't have to worry about. And now if you want to remember it, it is something that can be remembered. Or you can use I actually use RoboForm. Within RoboForm, there's a password generator. It generates the standard alphanumeric passwords. So I can make it as hard as I want. I can make it hexadecimal. I can exclude. I have it at 20 characters right now by default. The other one was 6 words, which is roughly about the same. Um, Nowadays, the standard has risen from 8 to 16 in general and password length. But if you use a password phrase, it won't, in your mind, it won't be as long as thinking of 15 or 20. Like this is something long, you'll never remember this. And if you have 10 different ones, you're never going to remember this. So, and you can generate them all you want. I can do all these type of things. So yeah, so me talking to my assistant. So you can generate these session passwords in any way you want. If, like I said, 20 is a character length. Robbie, I'm live on Facebook. Yeah, I am live on Facebook. I'm not at that link that you're showing. You may have to go to and just search for me. Are you on the Where Geeks page or your page? It should be my page. Oh, okay. So I am live. Okay. So okay. Fine. Okay. I was on the Where Geeks. I was waiting and waiting. Yeah, no, I'm over here on the regular page. Thank you. Thank you. So what? So these are two ways to generate passwords. Like I said, one pass will have the passphrase generator built in. I just happen to use an external one, which you can actually go in and create as many as you want. And you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, actually, I'm live now. She's showing it. Okay. So you can actually use this and change it to different lengths. And then once you skip that, it'll show it. There you go. And then you can add in special characters and now you're good to go. And it's something that you can remember. Or one of the things I always tell people, you can use passages from a Bible, passages from a book that you like, something that you know you can remember, simple kids rhymes. You can use a lot of little things like that that will help. But password managers are the best way to go. So let's stay on that topic. If you noticed in my password manager, I have tons of different passwords listed here. When you go to websites and you make an account, we can go to Hotmail just so you see. There are, type it in. If you want, you can create a new account, trade a free account. And then what happens is, the good thing about a password manager is I could literally go in here and if my password, if I wanted to log in, I can log in, my information is there. If I want to use a new information for something new, I can come in here and pick and fill out information. I can put in certain personal stuff and go from there. It lists credit cards, it lists a lot of things that you can keep track of and it'll fill out. So that's the one thing about RoboForm is it actually fills out forms for you and makes life easier when you're creating a new page. And then it will generate the password for you and then save it within its password list so that you don't have to do it yourself. All right. So that's the great thing about it. And you can, the number one rule with this is keep your passwords individual. Do not reuse passwords. It can make life difficult for you, but if you do, I've done it in the past. You needed a password readily available. You remembered one that you used, you put it in, and then you forget. The thing about the password manager is that if there's ever a compromise, look up. If you get the alert, I have a different service, a dark web service that lets me know of breaches and things like that. Will let me know that what was found on the internet. And hold on a second. What was found on the internet, and if that information comes from Netflix or wherever it's found, it'll let me know and it says that information, what information was breached out there and put out to the internet. And so I can go and look up that username and look up that password. And if I happen to use that password more than once, I can now go change all the iterations. And within your password manager, it'll allow you to look up passwords that you've used multiple times. I'm not going to do that here and show you, but there are, I went and did what I call my core bank accounts, you know, any of the major services you use like Netflix, any of the major, any financial, anything associated with finance, QuickBooks, things like that. Those things have a lot of information on you and preferences, so you want to make sure those are protected. Any place you shop, Amazon, you know, Macy's, wherever. All my core have been changed and they're individual. There may be some older ones, and every so often I'll go in and even passwords that are not up to standard. Every so often I'll go in when I'm bored or if I got nothing to do at that moment. I'll go in and either delete the account, go in, find the accounts that have really short passwords and dumb passwords, and either update the password or go into the account and delete the account. I don't use it anymore. Just use it. I think I just recently did it to an auto shop that I had bought parts from years ago. Never used it, auto parts shop. And so I went and deleted the account. And that I don't have to worry about that. And I think that's what some of the people you should do. I think there are days you have to go through all of your passwords. When you use the password manager, save them, because a lot of times what's going to happen is when you have this up here and you create the account, it's gonna save your password, ask you to save the password. You save the password and the username. Now, anytime you want to log back in, it would automatically do that for you. You don't have to type something. I don't have to go in and type something for it. I can just sign in, and I can show you real quick, you know, my Hotmail. I can go in, see it comes up here. I can, and then there you go. And then the password, same thing. It'll come up. I can put the password, and then I have a multi-factor authentication set, but I was already in this earlier, so it won't see. And this is my Hotmail. So I already had it where I don't have to do multi-factor for a week or whatever, since I already logged in earlier. So this is what you can do with that. And so it makes it easier for you to log into places, to create, and then to monitor and manage your passwords. Now, the good thing for businesses, which I have with RoboForm, is I share this with my assistant. She does all my social media, more than assistant, but I share it with her. And so we have sections within our password manager. I have a section within the password manager that I actually copy things to. And in that section, she has access to just those passwords. Now, if I had someone else that was lower on the totem pole, with her, I can give her full access. Once she has access to those passwords, the ones I shared with her, she doesn't have access to my personal stuff. She has access to the business stuff. And the ones that I share with her, she can go in and edit, delete, whatever. If you had someone in your business that was new, you don't know, or they're low on the totem pole, you only want to give them minimal access, you can actually give them just access to the record of the account, whatever it is, you know, like I had in here. You can actually just give them access to that one account. Any of the things that you share, they will not be able to see the password. They'll just see the name, you know, QuickBooks. They click it, it goes into QuickBooks and does what I just showed you, username, password. They see nothing of it. And then on top of that, they will never be able to change anything. They won't be able to edit anything. So you'll have that degree of granularity when it comes to the password for your people that work with you, and it's worth the price. And a lot of these aren't expensive. You know, some of these things you can get for $20, $30 a year, or depending on, and actually some of the, if you get Norton's or some of these other endpoint protection softwares, antivirus and things like that, a lot of them come with it. We had a VPN software, F-Secure. It came with a password manager. So a lot of just check. I know a lot of the cable companies are giving you that. They're also giving you dark web services. So you'll be alerted. A lot of the banks are giving dark web service lately. So you just got to go in, check to see, who's providing these services for free, and then use them. It's no different than your credit alerts, and if somebody's messing with your credit, or things like that. It's no different. You sign up, you'll get an email. Hey, this email was breached. There is a few free sources out there. I know there are people that are not for the utilizing the free sources, but have I been pawned? The word pawned, P-W-E-D, is something that I think I have it listed somewhere over here. Let's see. Yeah, I just log it in. Give me 1 second. I'll just log in right here. There we go. You can use this, and this, you add your email information. It will, have I been pawned? I have nothing to do with it. It actually has all the listings of all the breaches that have been out there. It will tell you if your email has ever been breached. Don't go crazy. If it's been breached, if it's been years and nobody's done anything, I would just suggest go change your passwords. If it's something new within the last week or two, just go change your passwords. Go to every place that you may have used that once again, and just change your passwords. You go in into free service. The difference between them and the services that you pay for, the ones you get from institution, is that what they do is they look at things that are unverified. They get documents and say, well, this document was on the internet and this is the type of information it had. We're just notifying you that there's a potential that your information is in here. They don't even know if you're in there specifically, but at times they can just get information on just username and just usernames, and then they could say, or emails, and say, okay, there's a potential your passwords were compromised. So they don't know, because all they have is just maybe minimal information, but they prefer to give you minimal information to protect yourself versus validating that information. And that's the difference between something like this. But these are all the largest breaches. If you look at them, these things go back years. And the array of amounts of, the people that have been, and these are the millions, 772 million. These are the amount of information that's out there for people. Most likely you've been bagged with one of these. And your information is out there. And if you put your email, your family's email, whoever's email in there, it will alert you when you, if it finds something in there, it will alert you. And then you can search for yourself. Once you go through the process of registering and all that, it would allow you to check for yourself. And if you have a business, you can check your company as a whole, your whole company domain. You'll go through the process of registering and making sure that you have access, you're legally access to that domain. And you'll go through that process, and it'll check and let you know if everyone within your business, anyone in your business has been compromised. And then you'll know if people are practicing safe or utilizing safe password practices, or if they're not. If they're out there using the password at work, using it all in their personal life, you'll find it out there, and you can actually change that. So this is one of the, like I said, we have a guide, and you can go to weargeeks.net password-tips. That's where we have, and log in, and there's a guide there that we have. It will give you information on the password tips, and some of them are right in front of you, and I think we've talked about it. You can get that information there, and that's, www.weargeeks.net password-tips. And that's where you can just put your information in. You'll get access to a link, and you'll be able to download the guide and have it. and we will make this available on Zoom. I mean, on YouTube and Facebook. All this will be there, so you can actually go over it. But if you have people that you want to have more information on this, they can contact me any point. Um, and I actually have this information on screen, so it's right there. You can actually, this is one of my presentations I did a week or so ago. The information is there. 800 number, 877-653-7146. And you can contact me at seth@weargeeks.com. We have a website, weargeeks.com, www.weargeeks.com. We have .net for information, landing pages, other stuff like that. We keep things over there. But on weargeeks.com is a lot of the business information in general. But some of the tips and the information we share are on weargeeks.net. So if so I noticed there's some people here, and I can open it up. And this is where okay. So if any one of you 9 want to ask a question, you can. Anybody have a question? Okay, look, I can't see anyone. So I'm going to check. Maybe it's just me. Say that again, babe? I thought I gave them the ability to unmute. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is in the chat, actually.
Yeah, how you doing? So go ahead. I can hear you.
In the chat, I had put, can you, oh, no, that's not, oh, my question is gone. Oh, that's right, because I lost signal. My question was, I think it was for the competitor versions of the software that you're recommending for passwords. What is the pros and cons of your competitors and for the password manager?
Password manager?
Yeah.
Well, they all have their their pluses and minuses. I use RoboForm. I've been using RoboForm since 2004. It has its cons. I've seen some new features and some of the newer, like one of the things I pointed out earlier, they have the ability to do passphrases, which I love. I love passphrases. My password manager doesn't generate passphrases. If RoboForm did that, I'd be super excited. But the cons of RoboForm are not enough for where I want to leave and go to something else to pick up something else. So it's a matter of what you want. Right now, if you're getting used to it, any password manager to start out with, you can get a year service, play with it, or get the one that comes with your cable company or whatever, look around. That somebody's probably offering it to you for free and you don't realize it. Look around, see who may be offering it free, test it, play with it, and even you can download these things and they give you 30-day trial, 60-day trial. So the whole thing is and it goes on multiple devices. You can put it on your computer, on your tablet, on your phone, so you don't have to worry about it. It's synced, and all that is protected. All you have to do is remember one password, make that a really good password, and then the rest of them you don't have to remember. You know what I mean? So,
but then you still have to change it every so often, right?
No, the National Institute of Science and Technology, which it's a government agency, they give recommendations, they do tests, and they commission studies and things like that through colleges and private corporations and they've done a test on that. And for years, companies have recommended you change your password every 30 to 90 days, whatever. They see no difference, and they've tested it, they've tracked it, they see no difference in security. Actually, it makes it worse, because here's the thing. When you force people at business to change their password, what do they usually do? They put a period, or they put a 1, or they put a 2. They never really change the password if you think about that, right? You know, at work, when people are changing passwords, they don't want to lose the one they have, so they'll just add a period, 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 or they'll add some other character, or they'll just add, you know, a number 1, a number 2, things like that. So they never really change the password. So unless it's been compromised, don't change it. And if you get the whim, like every so often I'll get a whim or something doesn't feel right, I get an email that I think they may have too much information, I'll go start changing passwords.
What's the problem with, I was on another Zoom with you and you said, if I'm remembering correctly, you said that you didn't recommend when your computer says or your phone says, would you like me to save this password? I believe you said you don't like that.
Right, I don't like it in the browser. If you're Internet Explorer or Chrome, that's the browser. If the browser asks you, that's different. What I was showing you earlier was the password manager. When you log into places or if you do things, the password manager will ask you, hey, do you want me to save this password? So you can save it to the password manager so that it allows you to log in later without having to remember it or having somebody next to you watch you type your keys. You don't have to, because if your password manager is already open, you can just log into places by a click of a button. It'll log in for you. So that's the places I recommend. Don't save to browsers. That's the most unsafe thing. Whether it's Internet Explorer, Chrome, all of them are unsafe. So that's what I was explaining. That's the difference of what I was explaining the other day. So.
But I guess, how are they unsafe?
Well, because the browser itself, one, here's a couple of things. One, it can't sync. Oh, well, it can technically. I know Chrome syncs a lot of information. I don't know if it syncs the passwords, but it does sync, and I think IE syncs a lot of information. I know it syncs all your favorites and stuff like that, but I don't know if it syncs your password. But it's not protected. It's not encrypted. And if it is, it's encrypted very low level encryption. So it means if somebody were to get a virus or some type of malware on your computer, the first place they're going to go, or one of the first places that they're going to go, is to where that password database resides within your browser. And since that's local, that data is sitting on your computer. Where your password manager, the data may be local, but that data is completely encrypted. Actually, the software is local. The data is in the internet. So even if they were to break into the software, there's no data to get into. So that's the difference. So your password manager is a lot more robust than Internet Explorer or Chrome or Firefox or any of the other ones out there. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question?
So Seth?
Yeah.
Recently, I even wrote an article about this. So recently, I went on to copy and paste something from a website. It was an innocent website. It wasn't anything nefarious. It was just a website that I looked for a particular verse. And suddenly, when I go to the website, my whole computer, everything stopped. The tablet just stopped. And there were lights flashing. There were noise. There was noise coming out. I was frantic. I was just like, what is going on here? I couldn't use my keyboard. And the message that was coming up was that I had a virus and that I had to call Microsoft. And I wanted to call Microsoft. I felt like I had a virus. Can you just share some tips in terms of what we should do when such an event happens like that? Because eventually, I ran up to you. You were like, I'll deal with it later. No, I ran up to you. And the first thing you said, don't call the number. Do not call the number.
Yeah.
But
don't call those numbers. Never call those numbers. I
ended up just turning off, I was able to reboot the computer. And then
which technically would have been a bad move. I should have told you not to reboot it. At that moment, I think I was in the middle of something, and I should have told you not to reboot it. But the best thing for you is, if anything, close the window. Don't reboot, because if you reboot, if you get a virus or if something gets into your computer, rebooting will solidify its hooks in your system, because then it will, in a sense, lock itself, and anything that it wrote, it'll be within your system, within uh, your scheduler. There's a lot of little hidden places that it puts itself. It puts itself within your service. It will corrupt a DLL file, and when you reboot, now you've in a sense set all those things. It's like when you install the software and it says that you have to reboot for it to work. It's the same thing. Once you reboot, you've actually solidified that thing, and when it starts up, a lot of that stuff is now going to run in memory, and it's just going to keep trying to propagate itself and lock you out. So the easiest thing is, don't close the window. I mean, don't reboot the machine, close the window. The particular incident that happened to you was pretty much that. It was one of those scare tactics to get you to click the link. A lot of times they just want you to click a link, whether it's an email. Clicking the link is where the problem is. They'll just send you, on your particular thing, the website opened up and it's all this fancy words, things flashing, and it freaks people out. Your computer's compromised. This is from Microsoft. And you get all this stuff, and a lot of windows are opening up, and all they want you to do is click a link. Either it's going to click a link to download something, some type of malware to your machine, or some type of infected virus, which they're one and the same. Just one they have different purposes and different reasons for them, or some type of ransomware. And so, or they want you to go and call one of these places, and then they get a hold of you and they scam you, or you click the link on an email and punch in some information and pay for something, and then you get nothing. Or you'll get some crappy software, which will now give them access. Because a lot of times is they want you to load whatever software they tell you to load that you just paid for, or they say, hey, we're Microsoft support, go here, click this link, and a technician will be there. And then all you did was load a remote software to your machine and gave them admin access. Now they can sit there and lock your computer, change your usernames and passwords, your local password, and then lock you out if they choose. And then now you're at their beck and call, and then most people will freak out and pay them whatever they want. So that's one of the things that you have to be careful with. So
I remember that happened to me a while ago, several years ago, and my laptop started, the lights went, the computer started talking to me. It said, call this number.
Right.
I think the first time it happened, I did call the number. They wanted me to buy this software.
Right.
I didn't want to buy the software. I think after that, it called me a couple of times and I just hung up on it. I think eventually I remembered to say, put me on your do not call list.
Right.
I think it might have happened one time after that, years later, and I just totally ignored it. And to my knowledge, nothing happened, but I did thought that was really funny. Or either something like that happened a second time, or I was somewhere and the thing started talking to me and I was like, oh, X out of this. This sounds familiar.
Yeah, if you ever get an email or some type of prompt or whatever it is, be careful. And I always tell people, don't click on things, don't just close your window out and see if you can get hold of somebody that can clean your machine or whatever it is, or look at it. The first thing I did with my wife was I ran the antivirus software that she had. And remember, and once again, just like I said about password manager, I know it's password day, but I'll give you a tip with antivirus. Keep your antivirus up to date, keep your patches up to date, make sure that you're using multi-factor authentication. Those are the tips that I always give to people when it comes to securing your machine. Do the basics. Keep your passwords on a password manager. Make sure they're unique. Go and update all your software, your Microsoft patches, your drivers, all that stuff. And also if you have, iPhone, iPads, Macs, whatever, they all have their own updates. Some of them are automatic. Some of them they're mandatory. They'll say, hey, you have to install this, but they usually give you time. But you should do it. And then and make sure you have antivirus. Antivirus is a very static product in the sense that it will only find what it knows about. It only finds because the information it's given is what it searches for. It looks for certain things to say, hey, that's a virus, certain signatures and things. Hey, that's a virus. If a hacker came out with a virus today, it would not know about that. That's why we're in the new age of endpoint protection, and endpoint protection includes antivirus, but it includes the new AI, MDR, EDR, which is a lot of automated searches, automated and AI type of checks, and it looks for your habits. It looks for things that it know a virus might do, and it looks for certain sequences of things versus looking for a specific signature. And then those type of endpoint protections are a lot more robust. But an antivirus is good if you keep it up to date, and it's not the end all, the be all, but it is one layer amongst multiple layers to trip this up. You know, there was a website, software company that, a major software company, and if everyone heard of the SolarWinds debacle that started in sometime in February or January, well, it was announced it actually happened the year before. They literally, the repository for their updates had a password of SolarWinds 123. And a lot of IT people were upset, and in discussions, I think there's a podcast, one of my podcasts, I was livid, and Robbie wrote up one of my nasty grams. I was livid about it. I said, those IT guys should be brought into the parking lot and shot. It's a dereliction of duty, because not only did they risk themselves, they risked federal agencies, major corporations for their stupidity. And what it is that software monitors other people's companies and other people's equipment, and it monitors it for security and monitors it for a lot. And so the software that gets updated, the system within it, which updates its own software, was compromised, and they didn't know about it, and yet they were alerted to it by a reporter back in 2019. And so they did nothing about it, and then when they discovered it in June or whatever, it went through this whole process, and it wasn't revealed till January or February by a cybersecurity company who had the service that they were providing to their customer, and they found it. So that was one of the things. And so a company like that, and they said, oh, it was an intern. Why is there an intern putting passwords on a major system like that? Really? That's not an answer. That just made you look more stupid. But that was their answer, that an intern put the password. They put it on an intern's responsibility, and this is what can happen. And remember, a lot of people, you may be a small business, but you may service a bigger business, or you may service another business that has access to a larger company. Twitter was hacked because of an HVAC company who plugged in a laptop that was compromised into the HVAC system that wound up that was automatically connected to their internal network, and their HVAC system compromised their internal network, which ultimately compromised Twitter. So, and then think about it, this is a small HVAC company. This guy never had any idea that his practices would create a major problem for a major company. And that can happen a lot. People will go after the ancillary services around the major company, major corporation, or go after certain people. They'll target, remember, a lot of these are nation states. They will target, and they have dossiers on people, and they have tendencies. They'll put a dossier of you, and I've seen some of those dossiers where they have a dossier of Jane Smith, and everywhere Jane Smith worked, every iteration of passwords that they can find and usernames, they've got everything that every place she's ever been, they'll have all that information. And then the minute there's something on Jane Smith, they start checking everywhere. They check, if she moved from ABC and went to NBC, now they're going to check all those usernames that they picked up and they're going to check NBC to try to break into NBC. And if not, they'll try something else. They'll keep trying Jane wherever she goes and anything she has to compromise her so that they can get into NBC. If they want to get into that company, they come up with dossiers of employees. And even if you're a former employee, they'll still come after you, because you'd be surprised how many people, how many companies don't turn off accounts or forget to turn off accounts in certain areas. You know, they don't turn them off, they don't suspend them, they don't delete them, and their account and the username is still has access to certain things. You'd be surprised how many corporations still do that. So I think I've said enough. And so, but this is password day once again. We'll go back over this quickly. Let's see, password tips. There goes a quick password tip. Always use unique passwords. Find a password manager. Make sure you're doing multi-factor authentication or some type of, you know, whether it's biometrics, use your fingerprints. There's a whole legalities to that, but that's another discussion. Make sure you're maintaining your right passwords. Make sure if you have short passwords, anything under 16 characters, go back and update them. I always tell people, just start. Don't go crazy. Get a password manager. Don't start going crazy. Just make sure that all your passwords are entered. Whether they're short, they're long, just enter them into the password manager. Then you can slowly but surely start changing things and doing what you need to do and making them unique. And that the password manager will tell you this password is not unique. Some of the newer password managers will even tell you this password has been breached on the internet, which is great. And then you can actually change those. But always make sure you change your core, your financial, your credit, you know, check stuff, you know, Credit Karma and any of those. Make sure all your, you know, any of the banks, stock, Netflix, any of these other things that you have that are really close to you, make sure those things are checked. And once you enter those in, do your core first, and then you can work on all the, you know, other stuff that I have out there. If you don't start, you'll never get it done. You know, you just got to start somewhere and then work there. And then if you have a business, make sure that your people are following specific policies, and they're using the proper techniques or the proper standards that should be done out there. And if they're not, then you have to hold them accountable, because if you don't, they're gonna create a hole. And human factor is one of the biggest cause of most breaches and most hacks. People aren't paying attention. People are putting in bad passwords. People are at work surfing. They're clicking on things. They're doing things they shouldn't be doing, and they compromise the business. And you know, most businesses that get compromised, if your customers find out about it, you most likely are out of business within 3 months. They lose that respect. They lose the confidence in you, and they don't want to be compromised. So hold your people accountable, make sure they have the right process and policies, and go from there. But once again, my name is Seth Melendez, WearGeeks Solution, the president. If you need to get a hold of me on Instagram, or Facebook and Twitter, it's at WearGeeks. My email address is seth@weargeeks.com, and the number is 877-753-7146. Thank you very much. Once again, Seth Melendez. Oh, and www.weargeeks.com. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Happy Password Day.